Welcome to Mouthing Off. I am your host, Mike TheZorch, and this is the show where I give my completely unfiltered, unrestricted, uncensored, unscripted opinions and thoughts on things happening in and around the gaming industry. And a lot of things are happening, a lot of good, and equally a lot of bad. So I will be covering throughout the show, throughout this whole series, basically the whole gambit. I'll be talking about the things that are really good about happening in the industry, things that are really bad that are happening in the industry. Yeah, I'll be covering it basically at all, and I'll try to keep it balanced, the good versus the bad. I'll try to keep that part balanced so that it's not all negative, because for all the bad going on in the gaming industry right now, there's a lot of good in it too. A lot of positive things are happening. And so it's not always dire. It's not always horrible. And I want this show to reflect that. But when it does go bad, I'm going to definitely talk about it. And I'm definitely not going to hold back. And that is the purpose of this show. And I'll do my best here on Gamers Bay to try and keep it clean of what's going on. So let's get to our first topic. Now, if you know me, and you people who really know me, know that I am the least bigoted person that they know. I have no ill will towards anyone of any color, any race, any religion. I may be very opinionated on certain subjects and certain things, but I would never hate someone simply because of their skin color or the religion they choose to follow. I would never do that. And so we're getting to now where game journals are now complaining about race in games, particularly Final Fantasy 16, where they are whining and crying that there are too many white people in a video game. And Yoshi P, who is the director for Final Fantasy 16 and is also the director-producer for 14, has come out and said that it would make no sense because for there to be black characters, because the game is supposed to be a lot like medieval Europe, and the journals' minds are just exploding, and they're going, they're citing historical values for a fantasy game. And I'm getting really sick of this hate for white people. This hate for white people. This this whole thing of, and this right here is the crux of it. This hatred to fight racism thing. You cannot fight racism with more racism. You can't do it. You can't fight bigotry with more bigotry. You just can't do it. You can't combat something with the same energy. You can't do that at all. It just doesn't work. And so these journals just screaming and crying about there not being enough inclusion, diversity in Final Fantasy 16, they're shooting their own argument in the foot by using bigotry and racism to argue against bigotry and racism. It is completely stupid for them to do this. Absolutely asinine. And so you can't fight it using the same energy. It's completely derailing their whole argument by doing this. By hating one group to try and promote other groups, that's racism. You can't just say, oh, no, it's not racism because they're white. No, that makes it even worse. that makes it even far worse. And so I'm to the point to where I just don't think game journals are relevant at all. I can't tell you the last time I've ever visited Kotaku or IGN or any of these other sites that just embrace this stupidity. I can tell you the last time I've actually went to one of those sites. I think it's been months. I occasionally will visit certain sites to look up news. Most of the time, I will just close the page because I'm just disgusted by what I see. What mainstream game journalism has become activism for fighting against a problem that doesn't exist. If you notice, racism wasn't a big problem in the United States until the left started making it an issue. Before they started introducing racism to try and fight racism, and you can't fight racism by using racism against itself. You can't do that. It doesn't work. It will never succeed. All you're going to do is make people angry at you. You're going to make people hate you. You're just going to create more hate. You're not going to create more inclusion. You're not going to create more representation. You're not going to create harmony between the races. You want harmony between everyone of every color, every ethnicity, every religion. You want harmony between them. You don't want division. And what these people are doing is creating and sowing division. And it's creating and sowing division within the gaming community by them doing this. So I don't follow them. I don't take anything that these people say seriously. I do not listen to them. I don't take, I don't take what they say seriously. I don't listen to them. And I basically think that these mainstream outlets are basically irrelevant. And there are a group of YouTube, creators that I follow. I'll follow Game Ranks and I'll follow Gaming Bolt. And there's a few others that I know don't follow the crazy. That don't follow this ideology that, you have to use racism to fight racism. Although they don't say it that, they would use terms like diversity and inclusion and representation, when what they're really talking about is being racist towards white people. And that's wrong. Again, you can't use racism to fight racism. So, I think Yoshi P is right to stick to his guns, to not give in to them. The worst thing you can do is to bend the knee to these people, because the moment you do, they will know how to get you to do what you want, do what they want, and they will continue to do it. Never bend the knee to these people. Never give in, and I hope Yoshi P never does. I hope he never gives in to these people, never gives them what they want, because what they want is absolutely abhorrent. And I think he's smart enough to understand what they're wanting is absolutely abhorrent. I hope he and Square Enix do not give in to these people. Okay, that was a bit of a downer, but let's talk about something a little more positive, okay? A lot of games are getting some updates, and some new games have come out, and they've been proven to be really good. Like the new God of War is now out on the PlayStation 5. And while I don't have a PlayStation 5, I did watch some of the playthrough, and it looks pretty fantastic. And so far, the reviews of the new God of War are actually fairly good. It looks like the game is actually in a very good state. It's not in a broken state. It doesn't have a lot of bugs. And so, you can actually have a good AAA game launch. You can actually have a game with without a lot of game-breaking bugs. You can actually do it. It's possible. And it's a single-player game, and it's selling a lot. It's going to sell a lot just like the last God of War. So this whole argument that single-player games are dead is basically proven wrong by the existence of this game. And it's going to be proven wrong with other future games that are single-player, that are in the works, that are coming. Now, unfortunately, it's not available on PC yet, but that will come. There's been some lag time between when the game launches on the PlayStation 5 and when it eventually comes to PC. It's been typically about 4 years, so we may see God of War Ragnarok finally show up, eventually within 4 years from now or so, or maybe sooner. Sony may decide to speed that up, make it to where, the games are not quite, aren't quite so exclusive, because they found out that if they bring their games over to PC, they actually get more money. It's actually more money for them. That's why Microsoft wants to release, Call of Duty after they finish their Activision Blizzard deal. They want to port Call of Duty to as many platforms as possible and keep it on as many platforms as possible, including the PlayStation. Why? Because it's more money for them. Just having exclusives, they're really not important. They don't make sense. If it's a first party studio for the console maker, they should really have those games on as many platforms as possible. It doesn't matter if the sales of the hardware don't matter. In fact, most hardware manufacturers, most console makers really don't even turn a profit on their consoles until a few years in. A lot of them take a loss. They make up their sales from software. And so if you're going to just make an exclusive on just one console, and you're not going to have it on any other system, you're limiting your audience and you're limiting your revenue. Why do that? Why do that? Why leave all that money on the table? Or if you release the game on multiple platforms, including your own, and make your own platform's experience great, and then release the game on other platforms, but don't lessen the experience. Don't lessen the experience on other platforms. Make it great also, but release it on other platforms. People will buy it, and that's more money for you. That's more money for your company, and that's smart business. Making the game always exclusive to one platform is not smart business, because you're leaving money on the table that you otherwise would have. So God of War Ragnarok, that is going to eventually come to PC. Will it come to Xbox? Most likely no, but that's a battle for another time. We are also got the new Modern Warfare, Call of Duty, that came out. And some people have been having some good success with that, some good experiences. A lot of Windows 11 users, though, have been having FPS issues with Modern Warfare 2, which is not surprising. A lot of gamers have been experiencing problems with Modern Warfare on Windows 11, which is why I'm sticking with Windows 10, and then I will eventually be moving to Linux at some point after the Windows 10 support is done, or unless Microsoft decides to stop being stupid and actually build a version of Windows that people actually want to use. Three, two, one. In other news, we've gotten a lot of new information on the next update on 3, 2, 1. In other news, we gotten a lot of information on the next big update to Star Citizen. Star Citizen's going to get a massive update. We're talking huge because they're taking more time in between patches. They're allowing themselves more time between patches. They've been able to do a lot more, and also they've been waiting for persistent entity streaming, which basically what PES does is it allows an object within the game to be physicalized. And it allows the server to save the state of objects within it, so that if you, say, grab the cup and you set it down and you left it there and you leave, then you come back about a month later, that cup should still be there where you left it. The game should be able to save the state of that cup. And the same would go for about anything. You know, you go in your ship and you would have a gun rack. You take your gun out of your inventory and you store it in your gun rack. You have cargo spaces. You have spaces for your gear. You'll be able to put your armor suits in there. You'll be able to put your any kind of gear that you're carrying with you, any accessories and stuff that you're carrying with you, your multi-tool or ammo or food, or there are a few stuffed animals in the game that you can actually buy and be able to put up on a shelf, you know, in your room, and the server will save the state of that and preserve that even between crashes. Now, way PES or persistent entity streaming is going to work now in patch 3.18 is it will work while you're on that server. If you reconnect, you may not necessarily get that same server, so you may not see the changes that are reflected. If you're able to get back on the same server you were on, you'll see the changes that were made. And there's a whole ton of stuff coming because they had to wait for PES to be ready. They've been able to work on a lot of other things. They've been able to work on salvage gameplay. They are building a ton of new places for you to be able to visit in the game. Lots of new places of interest to be able to go to and find interesting gameplay that is possible there. New missions. They have the refactored cargo. This is V1 of the refactored cargo, which means that you won't be manually loading the cargo into your ship, the cargo containers. That will come later. You have a tractor beam that you can use to move the cargo around that can do that with this refactor. So the manually loading of your ships won't happen yet, but you still, just the way it works right now in 3.18, you'll go to a kiosk, you will enter in your purchase information, and boom, magically there will be cargo containers in your ship. But you'll be able to move them around this time. And if you were attacked by a pirate and they destroy your ship, they'll be able to loot some of that cargo. How it's going to work is your ship will not blow up. There will be a 70% chance that your ship will not completely explode and destroy itself. It will break apart. It will basically, they call it soft death. And you may not necessarily die. So you'll be in a destroyed ship, but you'll be alive. And you'll be able to defend yourself against a boarding party coming into the ship to steal your cargo. And some of the cargo, most of it, may survive the destruction of your ship. There is a chance that all of it will be gone. There is a small chance that they may lose all of it. But the majority of the cargo should survive to be collected by the pirates. Or you can fight them off, call for help, have someone come to you, transfer the cargo onto that ship, and fly off and finish your mission. Speaking of which, cargo hauling missions are coming. Instead of the small boxes, those will still be a thing, but you'll also get missions where you can go load up cargo boxes, large cargo boxes, and then deliver those to a location for a good payout. Now, those would be a little more risky than the small box delivery missions because you'll be carrying bigger cargo and you'll be required to pilot a larger ship that can carry a lot of cargo. And so that will make you a much bigger target for pirates. You're also getting the change in how ships fly. Be getting the modes, the master modes, where you'll be able to go into quantum mode, which will work a little bit like Elite Dangerous's Super Cruise. It'll work a little bit like that. You won't have shields in that mode, but your shields won't drop immediately. It will take like 8 seconds for your shields to completely drop while you're in that mode. But when you're in that mode, you'll be able to fly a lot faster than you could in SCM, what they call SCM, which is your combat speed, where your shields will be up, your weapons will be enabled, and you'll be able to fire off your countermeasures. Whereas in the quantum mode, you won't be able to do those things because anything penetrates the quantum field, it'll knock you out of quantum mode, take you out of that ability to fly around at a higher speed. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of what's coming to this patch, because they've had enough time to do a lot of stuff, and they haven't even announced everything yet that's going to be in it. It's going to be one of the biggest patches for Star Citizen that I've seen since I started playing the game back in 2019. I've seen some big patches, but this one just takes the cake. This one's going to be amazingly huge. Now, it's probably going to be riddled with some bugs and problems, but they are really testing this one out big time. It's currently in Evocati, which is the invite-only testing phase currently, and then it's going to go to the PTU, the closed PTU, which is for people who are subscribers, people who are long-time backers or big backers who have spent a lot of money. And then it'll go to open PTU, and then it should be out sometime in December. Then very soon, about a week from now, they will have the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, and during that time there will be a free fly. So you'll be able to join the game, play it without paying any kind of fee, without paying a pledge, and you'll be able to fly any ship that's on display at the expo for that entire day. There's going to be a day set aside for every ship manufacturer, and you'll be able to fly ships from that manufacturer that entire day, or the entire period of the expo, basically, to be able to see how the game is and how it plays. And the server counts have been raised. They've been raised for some time, so you'll be able to see a lot more people in the game. The NPCs may not be as active as they should. Right now, the servers are still pretty bogged down. That is what server meshing is supposed to resolve. Server meshing will allow the servers to be able to separate out the load onto multiple machines instead of everything being on one or a certain group of machines. And it will happen dynamically, so that if there's a specific area, that area will separate out into a separate server seamlessly. Players will never know this happens. And so it will be able to allow them to not be so heavily bogged down. Now, when server meshing comes online next year, it's going to be the static type, where there's a set number of shards, a set number of servers, a set number of shards, and you'll be able to switch between them seamlessly you'll be switching between them seamlessly without even noticing that you're switching between them. Then the dynamic one will come along, and the dynamic one later will automatically switch you. It will automatically balance the loads of players. So huge battles between thousands of players will be possible using this method, where they will be on separate machines, but it will be as if they are on one large server. And it will separate the load out so that you can fly in these massive battles. Like, imagine the big battle at the end of Mass Effect 3. Imagine being in a big battle with massive capital ships and all sorts of fighters, being in that, actually flying in that in real time, something like that. That would be possible. Or the EVE Online battles, those humongous battles that makes the server slow everything down with their time dilation effect. You won't get that effect. And everything will be in real time. You'll be able to fly around and do as much combat as you want. Now, the game client may cull some objects to keep the performance down, keep the performance up, but it won't be on the server side. It will be on the client side. Now, 3.18 will also, and when it comes to performance, 3.18 will also include more components of the Gen 12 renderer, which is a complete rewriting of the entire rendering stack for the game, so that it takes more efficient use of your CPU and GPU cores, better multi-threading, and less load on the CPU for rendering tasks. So it puts more of the work on your GPU than on your CPU, and helps reduce your CPU as a bottleneck for the game. Vulkan support will come later, and Vulkan is necessary for them to be able to bring in VR support, which is one of their chief goals. VR support and cross-platform support with Linux is something else that they are currently working on. And our final story is basically about this show. This will be a regular feature on Gamers Bay every week. Also, to let you know what is coming up, there is more of the retro spotlight that is on its way. We'll be covering a lot more retro games. The Atari 50th anniversary is coming up, and they're releasing a huge game on consoles and Steam that will have 100 games, and this will include Atari 2600, Atari 5200, 7800, Atari 8-bit computers, Atari arcade games, as well as the games from their handheld and from the Jaguar as well. They're going to be releasing a ton of that, and I'm going to be covering all those games, all those retro games for Gamers Bay from that pack. It's going to be a ton of stuff, and they have a few new remastered versions of those games with better graphics and better gameplay. Like, there's going to be this interesting combination of Breakout with Pong, and I'll be playing that. I'll see if I can get Tygra to join me in that, because some of these are multiplayer, so that is going to be really a lot of fun to look at. So that's going to be coming up in November, and I really hope you look forward to that, and I hope you look forward to future episodes of this show, because a lot of this stuff we need to talk about. I know a lot of other channels cover news, they cover a lot of negativity, and you know what? We need to be a little more balanced. We need to mouth off sometimes when it comes to the gaming industry, but we also need to, cover a lot of the positive stuff that's happening too. And that is what this show is about. Anyway, I have been your host, Mike TheZorch. I'm going to thank you for watching. We'll be back next time with our next episode. So look forward to it, and I'll see you next week.